There's my character. It's all inked up. There you guys can see the monitor. Hopefully it's not too washed out. This is our goal for right now. I just put a light yellow. This is my little portable sketchbook when I go to the zoo. This is just a light yellow with a little bit of orange transitions in there. That's all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit that first, and then we'll take a 20-minute break. I'll let it dry. It'll dry in this room because it'll be 80 degrees, right? And then after that, I'm going to go. And the reason why we do this light yellow like this, let me show you. This little light to yellow to orange transition is then when I come back in and I start putting in the fur color and other little traits on top, you see how the yellow and the orange blends in. It comes through the character. And this is a principle actually I learned back in the day in 3D. We do this when we have characters, especially human beings that are going to be talking. We make their base underneath like a yellow to a red, and then we put the skin color on top of it so it looks like there's blood flow coming through the characters. Okay, so if I show you this other page, that's another one from being at the zoo and sketching. It's the same principle, but here I'm at the zoo, like balancing it on my lap, sort of drawing and sketching. You see this yellow to orange transition. If I know if the light's coming from a particular direction, I might accentuate like an orange, a little bit of yellow on one part, and then just sort of build it up. So that's what I'm going to do for you right now. It's nothing really pretty, but I just thought I'd quickly show you what the transition is. And then this is where the transition really comes full circle, is when you have that yellow to orange in there. If I come back in with different values, I have about, on my set, I have about 5 different greens. Okay. And so if I come in and start, I do each one different. I start pushing little green areas, and then I start pushing little transitions, like little gradients of textures, and I sort of get that to warp and sort of come to life. So same thing's happening up in here too. You'll notice what I did do at the very end. You'll notice a little bit of blue under the bottom of the character. I will come back once I'm done and put little bits of shadow areas of blue to get the character to pop. And then here's another page where I did that too. So again, you're going to see these nice little yellow transitions. And look up here, this came out really nice. See how the little bit of orange on the top of the head right here sort of pops right there? Because then when you get blues on, and you get like a blue green over that orange, you get two complements really pop and allow that character to come together. And then the same thing was here on this other page that I did. Same thing, gator shapes coming in yellow up here, and then I got a little bit more brighter orange on there on the face, and that those act as nice little highlights. So then when I do put a green wash on there, I have that dry yellow sort of comes forward, and it gives the characters a little bit more life and sort of makes them, they're just easier read to sort of look at. Okay. All right. So all I'm going to do really quickly here, let me go ahead and sit down, is I have I like some of these portable brushes. I gave you guys individual brushes. These are really cheap, but they're portables because a lot of times I have my backpack with me and I'll be out. Like I might just stop at the Arboretum or the Santa Zoo and I just sketch really quick. So I'm just going to use this guy. It's a pretty good sized brush here. And all I'm going to do is mix up enough color. One thing that's really handy is I always check is I usually have a side piece of paper or I have a little bit of a paper towel like this. And I'm going to use this as a blotting towel. So if I put too much yellow to orange transition in one little area, I can adjust it. Let me see if I can just move in a little bit closer to this guy so we can see it a little bit clearer. That's pretty good. So give me 1 sec. I'm just going to mix up here some yellow and a friend of mine that I go out and there's a couple students I go out with and we go plein air painting and sketching and stuff. One of them likes to do what they call like a wet into wet technique. And what that is sometimes they take their brush and they come across parts of their area and then they get it to be a little wet first. Then they come in and sort of put the colors in. If you've never tried that, you could try it. I like to just build up one base color I know that I'm going to be using, which is going to be sort of, I'm mixing a couple different yellows together, making sure I have enough of them to get a little bit of a spread here. So one of the things I always do, and I know some of you guys might not have this ability, I always have another piece of watercolor paper sometimes, and I just hit it like this to see what the pigment's looking like. And so I just hit that little spot there and I get a good idea. I want to make sure I don't have too much pigment mixed in there. And then I'm just going to come into my guy here and I'm just going to start going across And if it starts to bleed a little bit too much, I just blot little parts of it because it's going to mix a little bit with that green. But that's a good thing when it does. It acts as almost like a little bit of a shadow system on its own. So I'm going to come in here, and then I just try to quickly go over some of this. So it's mixing a little bit, getting like a blue green with that yellow. That's okay, because then after I paint over that, all that's going to sort of blend together. And then when it blends together, I'll go over it again with that green pen and pull out little edges and little darks and try to get them to work a little bit better. So I'm just coming in here right now, getting part of this tail. I shouldn't have put all those details in because they're going to blur, but that's okay. Those are going to be darks anyway. So I like that. And then what I'm doing is I keep my little blotting towel here, and I'm always sort of like rubbing off part of that green pen that was blending in there. But this is actually quite nice to see how these little darks blend in. It gives me like my own little gradient that starts to take place on side there. Let me get a little bit more yellow put together. I've got a little bit too much water in it, so I'm going to blend in a little bit more. Pretty good. I like this broad brush because it's really easy for me to come along and just get what I want there real quick. And then if you feel like it's a little too wet, take your little towel. You can just blot it a little bit. You can pull back a little on it. That fades in pretty good. I'm going to go over all of the character pretty much and try to get that sort of yellow in. Then I'll come back in and throw in a little bit of an orange after it dries. A friend of mine I work with, that big idea, his name is Daniel Lopez Munoz. He left Big Idea and he went to Blue Sky to work. And one of the cool things was he was sitting there and Peter DeSev would come in and would be working. And he'd have a watercolor pad and he'd be sketching out character designs for Ice Age. And I've heard that from other people too. That just cool to see him just work and jam into watercolor, get a little nice colored base down, and then come in on top of it. And again, on this, I made the mistake. I shouldn't have put all my little circles when I hit them now. They're going to smudge a little bit, but that's okay because I'm going to go over them again and pull them out. That's pretty good. And then I'm even going to make sure when I hit this path here, I'm going to try to get yellow in there, and then I'll come back and try to hit the top of that, blend them in a little bit more. That feels pretty good. Pull on that a little rich, a little bit of water in there. Yeah, that's not bad. So I got some green coming in there, so I just blot it off real quick, come back in there, mix that color, that back to yellow. Don't worry about if you hit like the teeth. Don't worry about that. You can always I have a acrylic pen I'll show you, or you could take white opacity, white opaque watercolor. I'm just trying to say, and then you could blend that in and get that into the character. So even on the hat, I'm going to also go over the hat, even though the hat's going to be brown. But do you see these little gradients happening now? Do you see the darker green and this blending in? I really like that feel of how it's coming together. And then I might come in a little bit here. I got this hand to get the cup. Not sure about the cup yet. Let me think about that. I might just put a lighter wash on it. The pole's going to be brown. Oh, I need to get the back end here to get this blending in. cool. So it's nice how that color blends in a little bit. I like that too when out sketching, like at a cafe. You just take a marker and if you have a wet marker and just hitting like a maybe like a 20 or a 40 grade, and then you hit an edge to something and it blurs a little bit like that. It's like a natural little gradient comes in that looks pretty cool. That's a little bright for me. Knock that down. So always have this. I have these right here. This roll you guys can take off of it. By the way, nothing fancy. These are one of the women's and men's restrooms, right? So I have the janitor here. They're really great people, and they always give me their leftovers, and I actually take them with me and take them home and use them. They're just really I'm like, why buy them? They usually just take those away and throw them away. Sit here, blot it in. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool. And then just let me load up the brush a little bit more, get a little bit of the green off, try to get more of that yellow, and I'm going to hit hat. So even if the hat, I'm going to make that into a dark brown later. This this acts as just a nice base, brings everything all together. And I did not bring. I was going to tape this to my board, and I forgot my tape. But that's okay. I'll just hit it wet. A little secret you can do is if your paper does start to buckle a little too much, because if you're some people like to get really wet with a watercolor. What you could do is you go home, take a towel, take a spray bottle, spray the back of the piece, and get it a little light damp. Put it, and then put another towel on top of it. Put like a heavy book on it, and then the moisture will get sucked out through the towel, and then the piece with a heavy book on it will get it nice and flat. I've done that before; it works pretty good. It's an effective way. Um, and then I have the fish. Let me put. I don't want to do a yellow for them. I guess it doesn't hurt. Maybe just a little bit on the front. I want to do a little bit more brown on them. So let me just put a little bit of yellow there, a little bit there, maybe a little bit on here. And once I get that base in, now it's going too green. I'm going to block out real quick so it doesn't dry too much. And then let me change and add a little bit of a brown. So just a base color. And that'll sort of blend into there pretty good. There, I got a little bit of brown there, a little bit on there, on this side here. And I could push that a little bit later. It's not bad. I'm going to leave it like that. And let me see, just taking a look at what else I want to do. I have a little bit of rocks there. You hit that with just a separate brown. Sort of my base. I'll leave that, come back into that. Go. Get a little bit of brown under the character here. That's pretty good. Simple, nothing major. Okay. I got to do the stick real quick. So pull out my brush a little, make sure there's no green on it. I'm going to come into the stick here. Let me switch to one size, a little smaller. Yeah, if you're out and you could bring a full set with you and mix colors, it's great. I tend to be out quite a bit, like doing stuff. I'll be out and uh like having to go to a meeting or see friends or whatever. Then I just bring this portable set with me, and I think it's great. It's just easy, and I can just be out anywhere, flip it out, and then I can even if I'm out get my car taken care of at the car wash or whatever. You know, doctor appointment, just whip out the set. I can sit and just crank on something real quick and just have fun. Go. And I have a rope there, and I put a little bit of a base under that. And for the rope, I'm thinking about doing something with a little, I don't know, something a little bit more brown to it. Go over there. Okay. Now I'm just going to let it dry for a minute. Then I'll come back and start building up. No, I want to get some oranges. That's the one thing I didn't do yet. I was talking about that. I got caught up in the rope. So let me come over here, shake my other brush. Oh, I forgot that foot too. Let me get that foot done. There's not spots I forgot here. A little bit on the arm. Actually drying pretty good. So now let's go in and throw some of that orange in there. All right, let me tone this down a little bit. Let me clear my one of my palette trays here. Why these are so nice is you can just wipe it on and you can clear something really, really quickly. So we're going to a little bit of orange. So I want a little bit of orange coming up through here into there. So I got a little bit on the end, a little bit more in here. Sometimes I'll dampen it just to let that fade in a little bit. So orange up on top of the hand, arm there, orange wrapping over the leg a little, and then the belly, high points of the belly like this. This goes a little bit more in the shadow, but maybe a little bit on the folds there. Definitely the folds are right here. That'll create just a little bit more warmth on them. You're looking at them. Almost done. And then I'm just gonna, we'll take a break for about 10, 15 minutes. And then I'll come back and start blocking in some darker areas. So always build up with watercolor. And the way I was taught by Don Hendricks is always just sort of, we build everything up lightly. That's why a couple of you guys that already jumped into this, I told you like, don't go too dark too quick, because then you lose that nice, like soft transparency feel of what you're doing. And it's better just to build it up really slow, especially if you're not sure. Make little changes and stuff, a little bit more orange on that tail. There you go. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that okay online, and you can see that it's a little bit more, got those little transitions in there. So I'm going to go put this by the fan for a minute. Um, Another thing I was just mentioning to a student is when you get into these little details, um, like try to avoid putting pure black on the nostril, around the eyes, or anything else. You don't want to go pure black, flattens things. It's too dark of a value. So, want to try to avoid that. I might put a little bit of a brown on that cowboy hat to separate it right now, just really quick. And then I might go, I still have a little bit of yellow green here. I just want to go a little bit more around the eyes here. The eyelids that are in there. All right, let me do that hat. A little bit of a brown mixed in there. A little too light. Set up a little bit more. So that's a little light still. That's okay. Get it again later. That's good for a little base. And then just leave it. Build it up, let it dry, then come back, and then I could darken and get little spots, darks in there, and like make it look like it's old and beat up. Okay, that's it. So I'm gonna stop for just a minute, and let it dry. Put it in front of the fan. So let's just take a quick break, and then we'll be back, and then I'll come into this and start pulling out some detail and pushing a little bit more. Okay. All right. So let me just pause the recorder. Any questions for anybody online about what I just did and how I got that block in? You guys are okay? Cool. All right. Let me pause and let's take a break. Let's come back at 12. That'll be 50 minutes. I'm going to hold it in front of the fan, then it should dry up. So it looks like it's dried pretty good. So I'm just going to come back in here and try to get some little areas to. I don't like going right in and putting a lot of blue for shadows. I'm going to build up some green first around this, and then I'm going to start. What I start doing in my brain is thinking about dark and light transitions right now. So hold on a minute. Let me clean my pad here. Take this on in there. So, and if it gets a little blurry, don't worry about it. Let it get blurry. Let the colors blend together a little bit. Then we can come back at the end and start pulling in some um, some of the lines out with the pen at the very end, and that'll look really great, and it'll make things work a lot easier. So I'm gonna go in here, mix up some greens. I never dive into anything like super dark. I build it. Just something I learned from Jan Hendricks. Just let it build. Don't rush to get like a final answer, let it build slowly. And it's that, you know, if I do an hour, let it dry, do another hour, that's a good thing. You don't always have to feel like you have to get everything done super quick. Start going over the scales here. Getting them to pop a little bit more. Need to go a little bit richer, darker. I mixed a green with a little bit of blue green in there. So these dark scales pop out a little bit. They're going to be dark anyway. They're a very dark color when I was looking at my reference. So I don't mind hitting them right now. I had mixed up a good little batch. So I can get most of them in here. Then I can come back and darken them up a little bit more. And this is really going to help like turn some of the shape and form in there. I'm just starting with these first. Add another one there. Okay. All right. Clean my brush. I'm going to go back into like a green, do some more green build-ups around shadows. Again, leave the real, I know you're dying to get in the detail, little dots, textures, leave all that stuff to the end. Try to get the shape and the formed around first. Hold on a second. So just some of the folds here, leg a little bit up under here, some folds coming up under there, some little creases. You can come in here if you need to work. Is there another computer out here? I can say. You could use this one or grab a spot, or the main one should be open in a couple minutes. The main 1024 over there. Yeah, but you could grab it, work at a station. Want you not to be able to work. I'm just going along right now, pushing some of the shadow sides, getting it to be a little bit darker. Another place what I did is I had a little bit of a green. I wasn't liking it, so I mixed it with a little bit of a yellow, and it looks pretty nice. Gives me this nice little darker element or feature, I should say. Like brightens the little sides here. Still watered down a little. Getting that full crease in there. That's the white. Anything white in there, don't even worry about it. Like the eyes, the teeth. That's like the very last step. I'll come into that and pull those out with either some acrylic paint or I just keep building up little subtle value changes. Great thing about watercolor is you just get little value build and you come back and hit it again, and build it up again. Let it build up nice and slow. Underneath of the feet, be a little darker. Mix, go back and get that sort of like a blue green. The other thing too is if you start getting into more detail, you got to switch up brushes and change to a different brush size. It's easy to just keep working in the same brush and then all your strokes look the same. So if I go in here for some little like skin fold detail or tight little areas, I can get that stuff to work just by a little bit better changing up the brush. Smudging that over a little bit. keep building it. And then go around some of these circles now. Leave the circles. I'll do them in a minute. I'm going to try to just build like a light, like a gradient in there, fading from one side, richer there, and then this way a little bit. Don't just rush in and then kill the whole thing, you know. Just build it up slowly, take your time. Huh? It's not too bad with I think all the fans helps a little bit. The thermostat was at 80 a minute ago. Yeah, I brought one there, and I put another one for the back row. I put one over here, like you suggested, Brian, pushing the air out this way, little black fan by the trash can. Oh, cool. Yeah, that was a good idea. Maybe try to push out anything back that way, you know? So, yeah, thank you. Right. All right, then I want to get a little bit. It's so funny. I'm like mixing color here. Look, it's already dry. That's how hot it is in the room. It just, I put it down and mix it for a minute, then it just dries. Like, really? All right, it is what it is. All right. Need to get a little bit for that darker back in there. Go. Good. Um, Start to push a little bit darker under here too, building it up. Then I'll hit it with some blues, blend it in, try to get more of a blue green in there. Go mess with the fish for a minute. So then I'll let some of this other area dry. Also add the shadow to get the darker part under the hat a little. I had the fish like a muddy, I don't know, I was just thinking like they'd be carved. I'll start on the fish, I'll make the fins a little darker. Anything to change, turn the shape and the form a little bit. And maybe I'll put a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe they have a weird blue stripe or something for them. Right. Um, you go in, start doing some little detail. And then I always wait to the end, and I'll come back and get little blues and the shadows and build it up. So I'm gonna nudge over to a different brush tip. I like the way these like weird carp are developing. Um, I'll go back in and when that dries, I'll pull out a little bit more in there. Try to make them really dull. I want him to pop a little bit more in there. So let me come in and go to a thinner brush, and we'll start putting some other darker green in there. When you go to do the textures of the skin and the scales, it's really important to try to make them wrap shape and the form with darkness and lightness, not be all one value, one color. So I'm going to start with something maybe a little bit richer, and then try to put more of a blue green on the outside, and then as I go inward, I'll try to go to a little bit lighter. It's a little bit a lighter color will be like a light green mixed with some yellow. Are we on time? We're doing pretty good. So I got a little bit too much water in there, so let me mix it a little richer. And I like blotting stuff out because sometimes I feel like I put it down too dark. I feel like it's getting a little too dark. Shit it once with a towel and suck up a little bit of it. Nice so when it gets a little dark though too, because it creates a little bit more contrast. This little pattern that comes down off the neck, off the shadow side. A little bit more blue. It's actually sort of cool that the room's hot because it letting the pigment, the water dries quick, and then you get that little dark bit pigment that sort of sets in and it creates that nice little pattern streaming along right there. But then when you get up in here, it's got to be nice and soft. I like that how the water just sort of right, get that drying, then it just helps really wrap the shape and the form a little bit. You get a little gradient happening, transition of that thing. When I get down, mixing a little bit more blue green, my palette there. Let me show you what I'm doing. So if you see here, I have more of a, there's like a yellow green, and then I got more, and then I'm getting the blue green. I'm mixing the blue green here. So I'm just taking that and getting it really blue there. So I can sort of adapt from that. Then that's more of my yellow green there. So I'm mixing the yellow green on the other areas and then the bluer green along the outside of the trim detail. Get that to pop a little bit more. That's really pretty bright there. When I dull that down, that's going to just mix it. So that's becoming a little bit lighter. It's too much, you just take your little towel and dot it out a little bit, build it up slow. Getting some patterns in there I like, that gator skin that looks good. Darken some of that a little bit around here. But when I do that, I'm going to go back to the yellow green. I want the bluer dots to stay on the outside, the blue green on the out here, under here. I'll put some here. But then I want this to be more of the yellow green dots in there because that's the color wrapping over. So I can get that up. All on my brushes. It's getting a little muddy. You can see that yellow green starts to fit in there a little bit. Nice. The same thing up here. It's subtle, but when it dries, that pigment sort of hardens. Oh, I thought there's a question. Any questions for anyone online while I'm still working on this guy? You guys okay? I sometimes I think doing stuff like this is even faster than being digital. But I just feel like I get more done, you know, in a shorter amount of time. Remember, look at your reference and your alligators. They got tons of skin detail. They got wrapping shapes, sometimes little triangle wedges, stuff. Kind of come up and get a little bit of the shapes that were over here on this side. Let me just take a towel here, make sure I don't get my hand. I went back to the clean my brush, went back to the blue green, the darker circles. Trying to get it and hit a couple of these more, a little bit more blue in just a second to get a little bit more under that the belly there. If that looks to be a little too dark, just come in and take a little towel and sort of blot it a little. Don't double blot it because you'll pick up the pigment and then you'll smudge it wrong. That's Or if it ends up being, sometimes you make a mistake, it's too rich, then what you do is you come in when it's dry, hit it with a little bit of water, smudge it a little bit, and it'll take some of it off, a little bit of that away. You have this green, this grass in here, wanting to hit that real quick, hit that with a little bit more. Well, I'm gonna try to just hit the tip and then hit it with another a lighter green. It's not all super dark. Blot it a little bit. Switch back to yellow green. My brush a little. The round one sort of wraps over the belly a little bit like that. Gives it a little bit more shape and form, I guess. The round, then this round then wraps around this. Same thing there. Going to go back to a little bit of the blue green, a little bit darker part of that belly. Okay, let me do some pattern. Let me get up here on the face for a minute. Go to a different green. Fun to experiment. I forgot to ask everybody in this class that's here. After last class, somebody accidentally took a pen with them. If you happen to, it was either my class or the other class after, but we were short. So we usually have 19 pens in there. If you maybe you put your ID in there and then you took your ID away, but we were missing a Cintiq pen at the end of last class, you know? So I just thought I'd check with you guys real quick. All right, I'm gonna let that, I don't want to do any more. I want to let it dry, see what it looks like and what other little transitions or dots I might make in there. Leave it like that. The cool thing is now my edges have been really dulled from all the water. So then when I go back in there, it'll really start. I can pull out some edges of the character and have lost and found edges around here, around there. it'll look really nice. We'll start to bring it together. Let me mess with the fish for a minute. So after I do this, if there's not time today, I'll go home, spend about 20 minutes, do a demo, and pull out the line quality over the outside of the character, and then I'll wrap it up. So our goal is Tuesday to have this finished, and then after that, we're going to do the same. We're going to do another exercise, but I'm going to decide. I'll make a decision if we're going to do rats and mice. We'll do probably rats and mice, and then we'll do turtles after that, and then we'll do birds, and then after that we'll segue into humans. Okay, so try to finish this up, have it all done for next class, and get it out of the way. And but the next one we do, we're going to speed it up a little bit. We've been working on this for 3.5 weeks. So the next one, I don't mind if you go digital or traditional, but we're going to try to pick up the pace a little bit more and try to get stuff done in about 2 weeks so we can get more projects out. Okay. Blues here. Anyone have any questions? You guys all online? Okay. I'll find it. Coming in with a different blue now. Blend it a little bit. Have some little different. Show those stripes. Show. Bless you. I need to go get clean water because it's all has a green tint to it now, even though I'm trying to get it out. If you did multiple gators like this, I'll give you more pieces of paper. If you wanted to put like three in a row, it would also look really cool. You can also frame it up that way. You know, looks really nice, especially for like the student show. All right, gonna go ahead. I'm gonna stop about there. Let it dry. It's still pretty wet, and I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'll come back in. I'll go home, and then probably tomorrow or Saturday I'll pull out some other line and get some other line back in there. I'll finish the hat. It's just still a little damp. Yeah, and I don't want to. I keep going into it. I might goof it up a little bit more. So let me just let it dry completely, then I can go back and take a look at it. And then what I'll do is this weekend I'll start to put some blue shadows on it. That'll help anchor everything down. Right now, my goal, it's even the same thing like when you're working digitally, is try to get as much value and shape and form as you can, then come in and start mixing up some other complement colors to then anchor it down, get highlights and push the shadows and so on. Okay, cool. All right, let me go ahead. I'm going to take roll real quick before you guys go. So give me 1 second. Let me just stop the cam. And it's a lot of fun. Let me stop recording.